Hi, in this video I will dive deep into map crafting and the Atlas, explaining everything you need to know to prepare the best maps, juice your Atlas and create an optimized Atlas skill tree. The goal is to help you farm tons of currency efficiently. I'll also highlight some small differences depending on whether you're running a standard build or a Magic Find setup. I'll keep it concise and to the point while ensuring no important details are left out, so you'll have all the knowledge you need. I will cover basic map crafting mechanics and the best mods to aim for, Distilled emotions choices. I'll explain how to adapt these choices based on the map mods, and I will also show my best and most profitable combo, Vaal Orbs, a breakdown of all possible corruption outcomes, and later in the video when and why to use them, crafting early endgame maps, how to make them profitable, affordable and easy to run, crafting the best and most juiced late endgame maps. I'll share my most profitable Atlas mechanics, setup and strategies. Efficient map juicing with tablets. I'll demonstrate how to use tablets effectively, discuss the best tablet mods and explain how to stack map influence combos for maximum rewards. And finally, I'll walk you through my personal Atlas tree setup designed to maximize profits. Let's start with the foundation of map crafting. Maps can have up to 6 modifiers, 3 prefixes and 3 suffixes. Prefixes are always positive, offering bonuses like increased item quantity, pack size, etc., while suffixes are always negative, adding challenges such as monster resistances or increased damage. Ideally, you want your prefixes to be as strong as possible while keeping your suffixes manageable. If you're aiming for easier maps, it's perfectly fine to focus on having all 3 prefixes with fewer suffixes. Suffixes do provide additional bonuses from the Atlas for each modifier, but in some cases, like early endgame, you might prefer to avoid having all 3 suffixes. In other scenarios, using the maximum number of both prefixes and suffixes will be optimal, depending on your build and goals. Now let's focus on which specific map mods to look for and how to choose the right distilled emotions based on those mods. The first 2 mods you should prioritize are Increased Quantity and Rarity Hybrid mod and Increased Rarity mod. Quantity is crucial for all builds because it directly affects the number of items dropped. When it comes to rarity, its importance depends on your build. If you're using a Magic Find build that already has rarity on your gear, this mod becomes less impactful due to diminishing returns rule, however, it's still pretty strong. If you're playing a regular build without rarity on your gear, this strat is much more valuable and should be prioritized on your maps to boost item rarity significantly. For all maps, you'll want to apply 3 distilled emotions. The best distilled emotion for these mods is Distilled Paranoia, which provides increased rare monsters. This synergizes exceptionally well with both item quantity and item rarity, making it the most profitable choice. However, it's quite expensive, costing over 5 exalts each, so it's a significant investment, but definitely worth it in my opinion. If you're looking for a cheaper but slightly less profitable alternative, you can use Distilled Guild, which provides increased pack size. While not as lucrative as Distilled Paranoia, it's still a solid option for boosting map rewards at a lower cost. Next, let's focus on the Increased Rare Monsters mod. This is an incredibly powerful modifier because it doesn't just increase the number of rare monsters naturally present on the map, it also boosts the number of rare monsters that spawn in Delirious maps and from coalesced corruption encounters. This makes it one of the most impactful mods you can have for maximizing both loot quantity and rarity, especially when paired with mechanics that already generate additional rare monsters. For this mod, we want to use Distilled Emotion of Greed, which provides increased rarity. This pairs exceptionally well with the increased number of rare monsters, enhancing the overall loot quality. Alternatively, you can use Distilled Paranoia if you roll both the Increased Rarity and Increased Rare Monsters mods on the same waystone, but we'll dive deeper into that setup in just a moment. The next waystone mod is Increased Pack Size, and for this mod we want to use Distilled Emotion of Greed, which provides increased rarity. Now let's move on to the best combo that gives me the highest profits. This is the setup I would ideally run on every map, though it's not always possible to achieve. The perfect combination includes increased quantity and rarity paired with increased rare monsters. For these mods, I use Distilled emotions of Paranoia to further boost the number of rare monsters on maps that include Breach, Delirium and Coalesced Corruption rare monsters. Breach and Coalesced Corruption synergize perfectly as many monsters from Breach contribute to spawning monsters from Coalesced Corruption. Coalesced Corruption in turn can spawn rare monsters and occasionally even unique bosses. And now the absolute best combo, when running tier 16 maps, it involves the same setup as before, but with an additional irradiated mod. This is because Coalesced Corruption increases the monster level by +1, and irradiated does the same. With this setup, using a tier 16 map effectively creates a tier 18 map with monster level 82. This is incredibly valuable as it allows you to farm high demand items at item level 82 and provides the chance to drop skill gems and spirit gems at level 20, which currently sell for several divines each. While this is the most profitable option, keep in mind that these maps combined with Deliriousness are extremely challenging and require a very powerful character to handle effectively. Now let's discuss the potential outcomes of corrupting maps. While we won't corrupt maps in every scenario, there are specific cases where it can be highly beneficial, especially when corrupting tier 15 maps to turn them into tier 16 maps. We'll go over all the possible results of corruption to better understand this mechanic and identify when it's worth using and when it's best to avoid. Corrupting a map can have significant impacts on its modifiers, tier, and rewards, so knowing the risks and rewards will help you to make the right decision. The possible Vaal outcomes are: make a waystone 1 tier higher, make a waystone 1 tier lower, add 1 prefix and 1 suffix making it 8 modded, or it can add just 1 prefix or 1 suffix making it 7 modded. Change all suffixes into prefixes making it 6 prefixes waystone, which is very good. Change all prefixes into suffixes making it 6 suffixes, which is very bad. Do nothing, or reroll a map into 6 new random mods. And I'm not sure here if it only works on magic waystones that can become rare or for rare ones too. Now let's move on to crafting maps for early endgame, which are not the highest tier maps. If your character isn't strong enough yet to handle tier 16 maps or heavily juiced content, this section is for you. I'll explain how to make these maps profitable, easy to run and tailored to your build's current strength, so you can efficiently farm currency and gradually progress to more challenging content. For this purpose, we'll focus on tier 12 maps. This is because the minimum tier for dropping splinters is tier 11, and by starting with tier 12, we ensure that even if a map is downgraded to a lower tier after a possible corruption, it will still meet the tier 11 requirement. If you want to create very easy maps with only positive mods and prefixes, you can start with a transmutation orb, hoping to roll a strong prefix. For example, if you roll high rarity, you can leave the map as is. If you roll a suffix, a negative mod, you can use an augmentation orb and a regal orb. Then, depending on the distribution of prefixes and suffixes, you might decide to add an extra mod using an exalted orb. This is a safer strategy, but you can also simply just use an orb of alchemy. This will give you 4 mods immediately. From there, assess the map. If it has a good balance of prefixes and suffixes, you can decide whether to continue crafting with an exalted orb. If the map ends up with 3 prefixes and only 1 suffix, stop adding exalted orbs. This is because any additional mods will be suffixes which are negative and not worth the investment at this stage. Speaking of corrupting these maps, it's not super profitable. What you can do is just to take the maps that have not too rewarding prefixes and add just 1 emotion of greed or guild for increased rarity or pack size, rarity emotions for increased pack size maps, and pack size emotions for rarity maps. And vault them in hope of rerolling all suffixes into prefixes. If you don't hit it, you can use these mediocre maps on nodes without breaches or other mechanics just to progress the atlas, or you can just skip the whole process and not corrupt them at all, and just focus on the good maps. Now let's move on to the endgame map crafting, focusing on tier 15 and tier 16 maps. Here, we start directly with an Orb of Alchemy and continue using Exalted Orbs until we reach the maximum number of mods. However, if the prefixes are exceptionally good, and we don't want to risk ruining the map, we might stop crafting earlier. The reason for rolling these mods is that during corruption there's a chance for all suffixes to be converted into prefixes if we're lucky enough. For example, if a map has 3 prefixes and only 1 suffix, only that single suffix will convert into a prefix, so we want to maximize the potential upgrades during corruption. Additionally, there's a significant atlas bonus for every mod on the map. The more mods we have, the greater the overall value of both the prefixes and suffixes, making the map far more rewarding. Speaking of corrupting these maps, it's super profitable if you want to hit tier 16 in order to run tier 18 maps, but just be aware that you can brick some very good maps by changing the prefixes into suffixes. So if you have really crazy good maps, I would suggest keeping them uncorrupted, and other maps I would take a risk and corrupt them. Now let's focus on atlas juicing with tablets. We'll be using breach tablets, and if we aim to generate tier 18 maps, also irradiated tablets. The key is to use tablets that affect at least 7-8 maps or more, ensuring as many maps as possible are influenced. It's also crucial to target this influence on areas with coalesced corruption. Our ideal combo would be breach, coalesced corruption, and irradiated, unless we're running lower tier maps like tier 12, where breach and coalesced corruption alone will suffice. This combo works exceptionally well. Another important note: tablets that affect maps also come with modifiers, and these modifiers apply to all maps within the tablet's tower range, not just the maps directly influenced by effects like breach. That's why it's essential to prioritize good modifiers on the tablets. The best modifiers to aim for are increased item quantity, increased item rarity, and increased rare monsters. Avoid using tablets with weaker modifiers, as that would be a waste of potential. And that's all you need to know about tablets. And here's my atlas tree. I have these tablet explicit modifiers bonuses, this explicit waystone modifiers bonuses per tower affecting a map, and this 20% chance for double tablet effect, which effectively is 20% increased effect of tablets on average. This increased effect of prefixes or suffixes is very strong. I also went here to grab the increased rare monsters, and I took this node here to take all of the possible item quantity points on the tree. This notably is good. It increases the effect of explicit mods per explicit mod on a waystone, which rewards us also for the suffixes and makes 8 modded maps even more rewarding and harder, of course. And this keystone here is super strong. It adds 1 or 2 mods to rare monsters. It makes them harder but more rewarding. And here's my breach tree. This is my setup, but it's not the only good one. You can adjust it to your needs depending on your build, movement speed, damage, overall clear speed, etc. And your delirium tree should look like this to increase the amount of splinter drops, assuming that you're not running any delirium mirror maps, just the ones with infinite fog from Distilled emotions applied to the waystones. And I won't discuss other endgame trees, as breach and delirium are the only mechanics I'm using in this strategy, and I think breach is the only mechanic to make currency while mapping at the current state of the game. Now that's everything. I tested this strategy with a friend, and on one map we managed to drop 3 Divine Orbs. You can take my word for it, or better yet, try it yourself. Also, if your build isn't strong enough yet to tackle these high tier maps, I've got a video on farming your first Divine Orbs to help you get started. Plus, don't miss my complete build guide for the Lightning Arrow Ranger Deadeye, available on my channel. The links are in the description. Make sure to subscribe for more guides and strategies like this one coming soon. Thanks for watching and see you next time.